morning, good evening. While waiting everybody to join, I show you something about the webinar. Here is our panel. As you can see, we have John Young, then we have Cher Harris, then Colin Waggett, Neubert Tempest, Paula Neubert, Scott Draper, and David Barton. While waiting everybody to join, I'd like to show you and introduce myself. I'm Fausto from Italy. I'm in charge of REX in Europe, Middle East, and Asia. And what is REX? REX is a community of owners and CEOs of fitness clubs, mainly fitness clubs. But we also have REX in different industries, and also we have a multi-sector team with people, with owners from different sectors. And what's the goal of REX? REX goal, we have three main goals. The first one is innovation. So we meet to share, mainly to share ideas and experiences. Then the second goal is strategy. It's about thinking for new strategies. And then the third one is leadership. We meet in very nice places around the world to improve our leadership skills. And while we travel and we go around the world, we also visit our members clubs and also other clubs. We do these clubs tour and club inspections, they are called. But of course, now we cannot travel, and this is our international team from all countries, also from US, from South America, Europe, and Asia. They are meeting every week online. So it's time now to start with our speakers, and I'm very happy to introduce you now our special guest, John Young. And John, can you please introduce yourself and also say something about your company and give us an overview of the Asian market, because you have a long and wide experience in the Asia. Can you please update us about what changes are occurring in the Asian clubs? And also, you just said to us now that something changed right a few hours ago. Is it true?
Yes, thanks Fausto for the introduction. So my name is John Young. I've been in Asia now for quite a long time, been in operations and run clubs and then been in the supply side for approximately 20 years. And I work for Matrix, looking after the commercial sales for the team in the Asia Pacific region. So yeah, I was just explaining to the team earlier because you know, we've gone through some interesting times. It's almost like a tale of two sides. Some countries within Asia shut down as a result of government intervention. Countries like Japan, Singapore, Hong Kong, and China were forced to shut down because of the outbreak of the virus. And then interestingly, some other countries, there was no government intervention, but the clubs were required to manage their own hygiene standards, and they remained open even throughout the worst times of the virus. And so it's quite an interesting situation. But what obviously transpired, even where the clubs were open during the period, was that there was absolutely no confidence that the health club or the fitness center was a place for people to work out. There was no member confidence. And obviously some clubs, even in Hong Kong, prior to being shut down, made the unilateral decision to shut in case they found that some members were, they'd been traced to be carrying the virus and had used the club. So that was in an effort to try to build up the confidence that the health clubs were a safe place to be. Now, sort of fast forward, most of the clubs now within Asia, I'd say most of them are opening or have opened. And we've seen a very positive return to usage levels, which of course is a leading indicator that revenue and membership will return. So primary streams of revenue are returning to normal, probably, and obviously I speak generally because it really depends on the type of club, but anywhere between 3 to 8 weeks, there's a return to some level of normalcy. And that's primarily around the gym area, not in the wet areas and not in the swimming pool areas. But any time between that period of time, we're seeing a positive return. So that's the positive side. So the changes that are taking place within Asia, all employees, for example, must pass the quarantine standards of 14 days before they can work inside health clubs. Generally, no wet areas are open. Of course, there's social distancing of 1.5 meters. There's a capacity on GX studios. There's a certain check-in and capacity limits. Temperature checks are being made with any member or any supplier entering the clubs. And in some cases, members are required to wear masks. And this is a big difference that we see in Asia. If I walk down the street in generally any Asian city, 100% of members, 100% of people are wearing face masks. And that's not to stop people from potentially getting the virus, but it's stopping you from sharing it with somebody else. And we see that as a really big difference when you look at what's happening in some parts of Western society, where large majorities of people are just not interested in wearing face masks. So because of the face mask wearing, there's a higher degree of confidence among the general population, and that as a result has enabled the health clubs to return to what I would say a certain degree of normalcy. And yet, as Fausto, you were just saying, I don't really know now if we know what is the sense of normalcy, primarily because just today, Beijing government announced quite a severe outbreak of a secondary outbreak of the virus in Beijing. And as you probably know, there's around 20 million people living in the city. And the center of this new outbreak is the market, which supplies about 80% of the fresh meats and food in the city. The Beijing government announced an immediate lockdown of that area. 200,000 people are going to be tested. And it obviously throws doubt into, will the clubs now have to close again? And the degree of sort of normality that we thought was going to happen is really thrown into a serious concern. I think that as we move forward, what we think is a degree of normalcy really isn't going to be that way. You know, we all talk about the social distancing and wearing masks, but I think that the most important thing is to drive the fact that our clubs are extremely clean and that we build confidence in our members that if the clubs can open, that we are a safe place for our members to be. Otherwise, obviously, we are going to struggle. Pastor, is there anything else you want me to cover? I'm not sure of my time frame. Fausto?
Yeah, if you want to say something more, it's fine.
Oh, okay, cool. So I was just going to say that I think that as we witness this rapid return to exercise, it's interesting to see that I think the main changes is that the consumer behavior between, obviously the top priority now is family and friends, but I think that many people were not involved in some levels of fitness. Over lockdown, there's been a high level of awareness that people's health and fitness is very important. Now, in the Asian markets, people have not been able to work out at home because, generally we live in very small places. Our places that we live in are very small. And so the home use of equipment has been, online fitness has been quite substantial. And I think the clubs don't see this as a challenge. I think we see it as an opportunity to build the piece of the pie of the number of people who are working out and ultimately bring them into the health club environment. And so, it's interesting to see the research around who and what members are doing to access online digital programs and content. It seems from a recent research, I think actually from UK Active did it, that 73% of members are actually getting their online content from YouTube and actually not from the clubs themselves. But I think this is still a good thing, because ultimately, if those people are recognizing health is important to them, and it's even more important post-COVID, that we can then dip into that new potential pool of members and hopefully attract them to our health club industry.
Thank you. Interesting. Thank you. Now let's go to US. Cher, let's talk about executives reskilling. In your opinion, what kind of new skills CEOs and owners and managers should learn, should improve?
Good morning, everyone. I'm from Houston, Texas, and we were one of the first states to reopen in the U.S. We started, I think, as far as, before I get into the executive skills, we started opening up, our governor opened up outside facilities first. So our tennis opened first on May 1st, and then our outdoor pools on May 4th. And as we know of now COVID, you know, the safest way to exercise is outside right now, because of the air flow, as well as the, you know, reluctance of the COVID virus to stay in the outdoor environment, as well as the heat in Houston. We started a lot of outdoor workouts, and so a lot of our managers and exec team had to get used to teaching outdoors. For those of you that have been to Houston, it is very hot and humid. And so we had a lot of outdoor workouts going, and that was very different for our staff as well initially. Our pools, you know, we've done different workouts. We've consulted with an epidemiologist as well, and had him consulting the whole time. He really thinks pools are the least likely to be infected with COVID, because they're like a giant sanitizing bath, because of all the chlorine and UV that we use. And so we felt pretty safe in operating the pools. I think as far as skills, we've offered virtual classes for before COVID happened and before we shut down on March 17th. And I think we've had to rapidly learn about technology. If we didn't know it already, Zoom, Facebook Live, every type of technology that we could. We are operating with reservation systems throughout the club. Everything is by reservation only. We started our group exercise classes right off from the start when we opened the club. And so all of that was reservation only. We typically offer 200 classes per week, and we were offering 5 per day. So only very limited amount of classes. And so it was very frustrating for our members at first to get in, and with the social distancing and everything. I think, as John said, that health clubs are really the most sanitary that I've seen in the US. We are fogging facilities throughout the day. We are cleaning like crazy. I think communication is key. All sorts of communication through email, through Facebook, social media, anything that you can do to increase your communication with your members has helped tremendously, because that builds their confidence and making sure that they feel safe coming back. We've seen about 56% come back so far. We've gone all the way to about 70% of our normal participation rates in the club. And so, you know, I think communication and technology are the most important skills that executives could have in this time right now and moving forward into the future.
Thank you very much, Chair. Now let's jump to Australia, where it's midnight. Mel, thank you for joining us in this time. And could you please introduce yourself? And we know that you have an experience in franchising. How the COVID-19 is impacting the franchising business model? Could you say something about this?
Yeah, so I'm Mel from Australia, and I've had my own club now for nearly 17 years. And I also run a podcast and run events here. We were an independent club for 16 years, and about 18 months ago, we decided to become a franchise. And the reason that we became a franchise, to be quite honest with you, it's a great way to exit your business. So as we all know, the day you start your business is also the day that you need to start to plan your exit strategy. And we knew as a successful club that we weren't going to be able to sell it as an independent. And by becoming a franchise, a lending institution would be more likely to lend money to somebody who was buying into a franchise. Now, the reason I say that is because, let's face it, franchises have fantastic systems in place, and franchising has changed a lot in the last 10 to 20 years. It's no longer that commercial box gym that's on the corner. I mean, franchising is your commercial box gyms, but it's also your boutique fitness studios. You know, franchising is programming. Franchising is equipment that suppliers have and putting them, you know, into rooms and creating programming with them. And franchising has really taken off in Australia, and there's an enormous amount of potential here for any new brands that come here. Franchising is safe. The reality is, if I'm a newcomer to the industry, the bank is more likely to lend somebody money who's going to become a franchise, because if that goes pear-shaped, the bank knows then that head office is going to come in and run that business. And it's a lot more safer investment for the bank to lend money to somebody who wants to open their own business. So franchising has a lot of potential here. I think independent club owners, look, you know, I was one for 16, very passionate, you know, made my own decisions just like that. Didn't have to, not that I have to ask for permission, but it's different when you become a franchise, you also become part of the system. But as we know, systems are safe, as opposed to independents going off and making random decisions that might not be successful. So for me, moving forward is also part of an exit strategy. But I think franchising has massive potential for the right people. And I think it's choosing the right people to become part of your brand, which is what will make it successful. And yeah, franchising has changed a lot in the last 10 years. You know, if you're still, it's no longer clubs, it's group programming is franchising. You know, equipment, suppliers have got great equipment. They can be putting programs together and creating licenses with those. So franchising is a lot more than clubs nowadays in the fitness industry.
Thank you very much, Mel. Now let's go to Europe, in UK. We have the CEO of one of the top gyms, luxury gym in the world, Third Space, Colin Waggett. Colin, could you please introduce yourself, your company, also tell us, what do you think? Is the new normal going to be mostly normal or mostly new?
Thank you very much, Fausto. My name's Colin Waggett. I'm the Chief Executive of Third Space. So we run 6 luxury upscale health clubs across central London, ranging in size from 15 up to 100,000 square feet. In terms of your question, Fausto, is the new normal going to be mostly new or mostly normal? I'm going to take the easy option and conveniently step aside from the next 3, 6, 9, 12 months, when we're probably going to be operating under social distancing guidelines and waiting anxiously for our scientific community to be solving this problem that humanity is facing. And look a little bit beyond that and ask a bit more question about, in the long term, how much will people voluntarily change their behaviours as a result of this episode? Because clearly, in the short term, the new normal is very abnormal indeed, and that's something we're all trying to cope with. Whether we're been open a while, like Cher has, or about to open, hopefully, as we are here in the UK. So I'm thinking beyond that. You know, what's the sustained change in behaviour? So, and to answer that question, I see the trends, or the likely trends, as being an acceleration of things which were already in place, and maybe we've skipped forward a number of years during this period of time in terms of what people's expectations are. And the three kind of big trends that I see, which are relevant to this episode, which were there previously, were number one is power to the consumer. So, with ever increasing choice, ever increasing availability of perfect information through social media channels, and the requirement to be either very good or very cheap, I think is going to be there in even greater extent than it was previously. As has the expectation for us all to be ethical, sustainable, and socially responsible, which has all been thrown into sharp spotlight during this episode as to how we've treated our customers and how we've treated our people, and even more recently through the Black Lives Matter type of activity. So I think the expectation on brands and businesses in terms of how they behave, and the ability for consumers to affect your future very dramatically based on how you behave, I think is going to be even more pronounced than was already going to be the case. The consumer really does hold the power in that regard. The second point would be multi-channel. So obviously this has been the world's great online at-home training experiment, which people will either have loved, hated, or avoided, probably in equal measures. And there have obviously been some in-the-moment winners who had exactly the sweet spot business model at this particular point in time for these last 3 months. And they benefited from that significantly. But I think the truth is, online at-home fitness, online fitness has been around for a while in different forms. The people that have participated in those channels previously have been more likely to be gym members than those that weren't, that are not. And I think the expectation, therefore, of customers is going to change from not the expectation will be that every operator has those additional channels. It becomes part of the membership. It's part of the expectation, the service that I want to get from this brand, which also serves to address this kind of flexibility point, which is there at the fringes, depending on whether you're city centre or a more of a rural, sort of suburban operator, but maybe I'm going to be working a bit more flexibly. So ability to access your brand at different times and different ways, I think is going to become crucial. That trend was there anyway. And bricks and mortar operators, and I put my hand up here too, is, have woken up whilst our business has been put into hibernation mode, that we better get on with it and do get on with it pretty quickly, and most people have. So, but I think we have a fundamental advantage against some of the pure play digital operators now in terms of the real presence, the real personality, and the existing relationship with lots of customers, which digital operators might die to get hold of. So I think that stands existing operators in good stead. And the third trend, which I think was already there, which will be there again to a greater degree, is experiences over possessions. So if you ask people what they've missed most during this period of enforced solitary isolation or isolation with your family, it's been socializing. And we are fundamentally social animals, social creatures, and everyone's desperate to get back out there and get back into society. And therefore the requirement of us as club owners and club operators to provide that community space where people can rub shoulders with like-minded people, re-see their favorite instructors, and spend time with family and friends in a different environment, I think is pronounced. So those three trends of power to the consumer, multi-channel, and experiences over possessions, I think they were there before, but what's happened, I think we've skipped 2 or 3 years down the track. And so it's more a case of the powerful Darwinian forces will be just ever more evident than they were before, because time has been on fast forward. So adjust quickly or it'll be very painful.
Thank you very much, Colin. And now let's go to Scott. Let's go back to US. Scott, we know that the saying that culture is a strategy for breakfast. What do you think about the importance of a strong corporate culture and having strong core values in order to face this situation and help the team to react in a positive way to this situation?
Thank you, Fausto, and good to see everybody this morning. The way I would answer that is I can't imagine existing without those core values. One of the questions you'd asked me earlier was, have we had to adjust those core values for this situation? And absolutely not. This is our rock. It has been for 23 years. This is who we are. And it actually informs us on how to act during this time, as it does in all times. I'm going to share our core values here at Club Northwest. We're in Oregon. And let me get them up on the screen here. This is a Surreyer's core values. Now, a Surreyer is a warrior servant in love and wellness, and that is each of us. There's 140 on the team here at Club Northwest. We are a multi-purpose club with 58% of our income. We have about 8,600 members, and we have about, on top of that, about 58 last year % of our income was from non-dues revenue. And the great majority of that was not personal training. We have a spa, Medi-Spa. We have one of the largest indoor play centers for kids here in Kids Zone, and we have a lot of other opportunities for members and potential members to enjoy. So this has been a challenging time for us for sure. We were one of the clubs that was able to continue to bill our membership dues, and that was by request of a great number of our members. And when those members came back on the 26th of last month, we were able to offer them quite a few options for getting that their money back. And one of them was 150% of the dues that were paid during the time our doors were closed in gift cards. That's, of course, creating a win-win-win. It's a way for us to prime the pump of our non-dues revenue. And it's also a way for members to get even more than they've paid for, creating abundance. So our 4 core values are choose abundance, practice excellence, own it, and well together. And they really do go in that order. And we hire based on these core values. We assess performance based on these core values. And we truly live in these core values. I can't imagine going through this challenge with all the changes daily that we have. For instance, just opening up an entity that's been built and raised on creating well together, putting people together, and figuring out how to keep people apart. One of our first initiatives, and we have them on our masks here, and I will show you here as soon as I take this off the screen. We have a saying here that is 6 feet, send love. We believe this is an opportunity for us here at the club and humanity to actually learn to what the energy of this world is about. Not just, at a time when we can't not only not hug each other, we can't even shake hands. It's a great experiment on how do we continue to take care of each other? How do we continue to see each other as positives and continue to love each other? So we have actually had a very creative time over the last 3 months. Of course, one of the reasons we were able to continue to charge dues was we were very active and have grown a lot of virtual, and our members have been loving it. Now that we're back open, our challenges are bigger than being closed because, with a multi-purpose club, we've got the challenges of, well, your sauna's not open, so can I pay half my dues, or those kind of questions. At the end of the day, we don't get a lot of those because there's a trust that is still very strong here, something that's been built up through our core values over the last 23 years. And that's been built up first with our Surreyers and then gone out to our members. So it's been a very interesting time, and our core values are our greatest asset.
Thank you, Scott. Perfect. And let's go now to Paula Neubert. Paula, could you please introduce yourself, and also could you share some data, some main KPIs in your gym, in your club?
Sure. Hello, everybody. We're morning here in Colorado. My name is Paula Neubert, and I'm the president and GM of Club Greenwood in Greenwood Village, Colorado. We're just a little south of Denver. Beautiful morning here. Sky is blue, and always trying to find the optimism of what the next day is going to bring these days, that's for sure. So we are on our 6th day of being open, and almost 1 week tomorrow. Very excited. To tell you a little bit about our club, we're a 101,000 square foot main club and a 53,000 square foot indoor tennis club. We sit on 13 acres in Greenwood Village. It's a high-end luxury club. We have 240 employees, about 6,000 members, and we shut down on March 17th, similar to a lot of other clubs here in the United States. And I think the good things, similar to Scott and similar to Cher's club, I know Cher because we sit on the same round table, we have also been able to keep billing. And that request came from some of our members who wanted to, pay 100%. Then we had some members pay 50%. We had some members that opted to put their membership on hold. So it's kind of been all across the continuum of what our members have chose to do. But because of that, we have been able to keep all 240 of our staff members on the payroll the entire time. And that was a huge, huge, huge benefit to us because it allowed us to continue operations from home, not asking our staff members to do more because they were actually being compensated the entire time. So the connection to our members during the last 12 weeks was pretty robust because all of our staff members really wanted to do something as a thank you to stay connected to our members in every way. We did not have a good online system, virtual system, when we shut down. So we had to build it in a day, literally. And we did, and we've been receiving tons of thank yous from our members because it grew from 0 classes to we were streaming 80 of them before we even opened from instructors' homes and so forth. So when we finally got word to be able to open in Colorado, things were a little bit tricky because our governor never really addressed what phase of opening we would be in. So things just started happening, and then we just adapted to whatever it was that was happening because it really never was a specific address to health clubs. And unfortunately, our county was one of the counties that had the biggest amount of cases. So we actually were one of the counties that opened up last in Colorado. When they started doing outdoor activities, we just decided to start doing them in our parking lot. So we took bikes out, we put a tent in our parking lot. We did anything that we could think of doing just to try to stay connected to our members. And it worked because when we opened last Tuesday, we opened to 48% of our normal check-ins, and it's grown every day since then to 55%. So the trust that our members had in us to do the right thing and to be ready and prepared to open, we could see through the amount of check-ins and people really wanting to get back into the club. So our percentage right now, yesterday, it was the last time I checked at a full day, it was 55%. I anticipate it being even more today and slowly growing every single day. Group fitness participation is going anywhere from 80 to 100%. Now, remind you though, we're limited on our capacity. So the capacity per room at Club Greenwood is 25% of what our normal is. So it's not fitting a lot of people. And I think our biggest room can have 15 people in it, but we're getting all 15 people. So that's a good thing. We are still doing virtual classes. We're still doing it online, and we're doing in-house. Sales wise, we are going to exceed, we opened and sold 14 memberships in 3 days, I believe. We don't sell a lot of memberships in comparison to a lot of clubs because we're a higher end club. 14 for us in 3 days is pretty significant. And we're going to exceed goal and beat our sales goal from last year as well. Cancels are still a little bit tricky because we're getting, now that we are open to, we are getting the people that are saying, I'm just not ready to come back. I'm going to wait for the vaccine. I'm going to wait for the next thing. And we've been working with them on some sort of an extended leave of absence if they fit the high risk criteria for CDC guidelines. So we're working on that piece too. So cancels, we're getting a lot of people back that did cancel in the beginning as well. And participation just continues to grow. So one of the big things is we did $98,000 in non-dues revenue in the first 9 days too. So that was significant because our non-dues revenue is about 40%, 45% of our club. So we needed to get back to charging dues. So thankfully, our members are coming back to the club and they're willing to spend money. We're doing personal training in the parking lot as well. We actually, each trainer is assigned a parking stall and we have a pod outside with the equipment. So it's just their equipment. They clean it in between clients and our clients are loving it. I don't think they're going to want to come back inside until it actually starts snowing. So, all right. Thank you.
Thank you, Paula. Now let's go to David Barton. David Barton, we all know David. David Barton is considered the king of branding and the king of design in the fitness industry. David, who is David Barton? And could you tell us what kind of changes do you see in the branding in design related to this situation?
Thanks, Fausto. So right now, I'm not operating anything. I sold my last business, so I'm just doing design now, and design and some branding. But I just started a design workshop. I'm doing a place in Europe, which I think you guys will be able to see what it looks like in a few months. It'll be pretty mind blowing. But the reason I got into the design side of things is that a few years ago when I started traveling and through URSA and looking at gyms around the world, I saw how I think there were some really missed opportunities with how gyms look, the design of the gyms, how they look, the branding. And I think apropos of this conversation we're having, I think that, one thing that can really help this business, I'm getting emails every day about big health club chains in the United States filing for bankruptcy and closing down locations and shutting the doors, and it's unbelievable. Like, just it's the business is really in trouble, and and I one reason I got into this design thing is that I saw how neglected the design of gyms, the branding, it was so poorly thought out, and I actually, in traveling, I saw actually I saw some of my ideas had found its way into some clubs that were being built, and but I got into the design because I think this is what's needed is some help on the design and branding side of the business. So how does that factor into this discussion we're having? I think that the business needs to be taken seriously, and I see the gyms that are having a problem now, and I think that they're not being taken seriously as businesses. And I think that we, as the gym industry, need to really grow up and put on the big boy pants and take ourselves seriously and do things in a way that more professionalized businesses do. And, I see how things are being done, and that's why, doors are closing, and members are very, quick to, cancel their memberships and, move on, to a degree that, you can see here. I mean, there's, every day there's a company filing for bankruptcy, a gym business. And it's, I just heard about another one today. I don't know, Fausto, I don't know what too much, I don't,
No, it's okay. It's okay. Thank you. We have we can continue later in the second round, but we actually started the second round and we go back to John. So thank you, David Barton. Let's go back to John. And John, we saw different situation in Asia, but what Asian operators have done differently, and why do members feel safe working out in gyms in Asia? Do you have any recommendation for owners and CEOs operating in the rest of the world?
Well, yeah, I think the panel spread all over the world, and I certainly like Paula's idea of working out in the car park. I think that's absolutely fab, but we just had a typhoon in Hong Kong and swept through Philippines and Taiwan. So unfortunately, the weather wouldn't work for us. But, it's interesting. I don't, some people sort of say, why do you think Asia's done better than some other markets? Is there is there a greater civic responsibility than in the UK or in America? I don't think so at all. That being said, I think that there's wearing face masks, for example, are not uncommon even during outbreak-free times. As you probably know, in Japan, it's very normal for people to wear face masks. And I think that primarily Asia's been better prepared to deal with the pandemic, primarily because we've had some of these before. If you remember, in 2003, we had SARS, and it killed enough people for people to be very frightened. In fact, my children were growing up at school in Hong Kong at the time, and it was frightening. Even though only 300 people died in Hong Kong, it caused a lot of social unrest and concern. So as a direct result of some of the other sort of pandemics that occurred in, I wouldn't say a pandemic, but other infections that occurred in the Asian region. A lot of the Asian countries have procedures, standard operating procedures. They're probably better prepared than a lot of the countries outside of Asia. And as I said, people are so much more comfortable wearing face masks. So getting people to check their body temperatures, to clean down the equipment pre and post workouts is a completely normal thing for people in Asia to do. And I have to say, I think I would be challenged if I were running a club in some other countries to try to get members to do that. But I think what we must do is educate. When you come into the gym, you've got the chance, the member journey starts at the front desk. It goes onto the locker rooms, it's in the gym, and there are 3 or 4 touch points where we can remind members about social distancing, wearing face masks, using hand gel, the availability of dispensers at every other equipment so people wipe down pre and post use. These are some of the things that I think are very important. So it's not just saying this is the standard operating procedure, but it's all about actually implementing and executing on those standards, which I think are very important. I think the other most important thing is the adoption of a more of a digital ecosystem. I think Colin was talking about it a little earlier. I think that's going to the adoption of a greater, wider digital ecosystem will be much faster in Europe and Asia. Especially younger people, they want personalization, they want customization, they want the ability to be more flexible. So that digital ecosystem helps improve the service proposition, contactless entry. For example, as Brian Rourke is always talking about, this frictionless convenience. we have to have frictionless convenience now, because it has to be frictionless, because we can't touch people. It has to be more frictionless. So digital provides that ability to be more frictionless, and people are demanding more convenience. So I want to join online, I want to work online, I want to schedule online. I even want to do some online classes, because during the shutdown, a lot of people have been doing more online training. And so I think that digital the digitalization of the clubs is going to be speeded up, that adoption rates. And probably lastly, I think that we might see some move towards club offerings, more flexible membership options with no fixed contracts. In Asia, we still have a lot of clubs offering fixed contracts of 12 months, 24 months. And I think that as younger members demand more flexibility and customization, that's probably going to move out pretty quickly, as clubs in Asia have to be much more flexible in the way they sell their memberships.
Thank you, John, and thank you for all this information from Asia. Very useful to understand the situation. Everything is happening first in Asia now, and then in the rest of the world.
Pleasure.
So thank you, John. And Cher, let's go back to Cher. Cher, we talk about reskilling, about owners, and entrepreneurs, and CEOs reskilling. What do you think about the new skills for trainers, instructors, front desk, and sales people?
I think our trainers like Paula's were kind of thrown into this new world automatically. We were very fortunate because our ownership decided to pay everyone throughout the shutdown. But trainers felt that it was their obligation to connect with the members that they trained on a daily basis. We are a luxury health club, and we charge a lot of money. So our members have that expectation of us that we will make it work no matter what. And so we had trainers reaching out immediately to their clientele, and still we have some trainers that are training still purely virtually, even though we're open. Our average age is 55, and so we have a lot of members that do not feel comfortable coming back. However, they are paying full dues. And we will continue to do virtual training as well as virtual classes throughout this time. And it will probably just be something that is normal, especially if we were to shut down again. I think that member service agents or the front desk has an enormous responsibility to communicate with the membership as they are coming through into the club, the safety measures we've put into place, as well as take temperatures. We had ordered thermal scans before the shutdown, and so members could have that touchless experience and not someone coming up to you with a temperature or thermometer. Knowing the questions and teaching members the importance of reporting if they do have COVID or are in contact with someone with COVID is really important. We have had some members report that they have been in the club and have had COVID. And so we have, disinfected the areas, let everyone know who's been in contact with the member, as well as staff. We have a very good surveillance system, so we've been able to track them through the club. I think putting those protocols in place makes your staff feel safe as well as your members. Also was going to talk to the future of clubs. I've talked to a lot of large operators like us, and our members have gotten used to being socially distanced now. And they've said to us that they will not feel comfortable going back to what we had before. We operate a 175,000 square foot facility. However, our classes and our studios are smaller, of course, and they feel comfortable now with the social distancing. And as we are able to increase, I don't think that members will feel comfortable going back to the way it was, ever. So we've contemplated increasing our dues structure, as well as our initiation fees, to reduce the size of our membership. So I think that's something that clubs can look at as well, that, you know, your members are not going to, they want you to operate differently. And I don't think that will change. Even when we have a vaccine or anything like that, they are going to feel this way for the near future. And as John said, you know, especially in Texas, we've got about 50% of people that wear masks, 50% that don't. You know, people feel like we're infringing upon their civil rights. We do not require masks in the club. We require our employees to wear them. But, you know, it's just a different mindset, you know, and I don't know what it will take for people to realize that this is serious, and that, you know, that they could die from it no matter what age they are, and to really take it seriously and clean their equipment and, you know, not expect us to do it. And, you know, so it's different, totally different mindset.
Thank you. Yeah, this is important. Yeah, thank you. And let's go back to Mel Tempest. And Mel, what are some of the real opportunities in the industry now as a woman leader?
There's fantastic opportunities now for women, and I think there have been for many, many decades. I mean, the role of women in business have definitely changed quite drastically. I think really nowadays, women don't want to take on, you know, the man's role. They want to work alongside men, and they want to be able to work alongside men to be able to create successful business. You know, women bring to the table different qualities. They bring empathy, they bring, you know, women love to challenge the status quo and to work outside the box and to think outside the box. Women are great at nurturing, and men have qualities that they bring to the table too. So the opportunities are absolutely incredible out there at the moment. I think, you know, going back to what, you know, David said earlier on about the gym industry not being taken seriously, I think for many decades, unfortunately, women were looked at as not being serious leaders, but that has certainly changed in the last 10 years. And I think that there's great opportunity out there for women to be taking on roles as CEOs of boutique franchises. I mean, there's enormous opportunity for a women's chain. So if any of you guys are thinking of new opportunity, there's fantastic opportunity for women's chains. And this is where women can step up. And it's up to us now. It's our responsibility as older women to be bringing up younger women through the ranks, because eventually we are going to move on, and we need to have great women to fill our shoes, and that's our responsibility now. But women, they don't want to take over the role that men have. They want to work alongside men, and they have great qualities to bring to the table.
Thank you. And let's go back to Colin Waggett, Third Space. You truly invented the concept of third space, but what does it take to be truly the third space for your members? Colin. Just one moment, I unmute you. Can you unmute yourself? Okay.
Got it?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so firstly, I can't personally take the credit for inventing the Third Space brand name. It predates my time back to 2001, but the people that did it were inspired. I think everyone's broadly familiar, I expect, with the concept of third space in its generic sense, which is home, work, and club. And back in 2001, the founders of this business took that concept and applied it into this brand we have here in London. And I was trying to answer that in terms of what does it mean now, or what has it always meant for us as a brand, and what does it mean particularly in the kind of COVID era and the next 6-12 months. Firstly, obviously, these are places where you feel very comfortable, you feel known, and you know the people there. And therefore, there's that sense of security and familiarity in all those three environments. And the core of that for me has always been the team members that create that environment. And so one of the things we've done within Third Space is an industry where actually a lot of people are either freelance or self-employed. We actually directly employ nearly every single person that works in our club, whether a personal trainer, group exercise instructor, or a housekeeper. because those are the people that our members are speaking to day in, day out. So including the extent of making sure all of our housekeepers speak English, and they don't teach them English, because they're the ones that everyone is chatting to. And so that, environment created by our people is the thing that then creates the third space in feeling from our members who are coming there very frequently. Our members visit on average 3 times a week, but a very active membership base who train pretty seriously, and they get to know the trainers, instructors, housekeepers, front-end housekeepers all extremely well. So translate that through, that's what I believe is a simple idea, but it sits at the heart of us people feeling comfortable, welcome when they come into the space. And in this next 3, 6, 9 months, when people are coming back to our club, hopefully for us in the next 4 to 6 weeks, then I think the sense of security and comfort will emanate from our team members. So we all talk about how are people going to feel when they get back into the outside world. And the truth is, you'll start with your team members. How are they going to feel? Not about popping into the gym, but being in that gym for 8 hours a day. And therefore, the extent to which they feel completely comfortable with all the protocols we've got, the lengths we're going to make sure they understand in depth and feel totally comfortable in their own mind, in order that when a member is talking to them about why are you doing it this way, why are you doing it that way, why is this safe, why have you taken this class off, why is that class still on, why is this bit closed, why is this bit open, their ability to speak with supreme confidence to our members when they come back, I think will extend that form of comfort. Because again, when you think about our environments, when people venture for the first time outside their homes and they go to their offices, they might be starting to pop into shops, bars, restaurants, etc. Well, we know the hardcore of our members are desperate to come back into our clubs, but nevertheless, their first impressions and accounts, their first 1 or 2 visits will determine, do they feel safe and secure in our environment, which will be fundamentally driven by whether our team members feel safe and secure in that environment. And if they do, then we think we're onto the right path. And that first visit will be, so the people that come back straight away, and there'll be plenty of those, will then tell their friends who may be a bit more nervous, do you know what, this is very organized, there's thermal scanning, so you can come in, there's temperature check, the cleaning routines have been stepped up, the social distance has been taken seriously, the class protocol check, the changes that have been made are all being carefully thought through. So the ability, my view is when we stop telling our team members what we've done, they will start to be understanding and believing in what they are. So that's the phase we're in now, that sort of pre-mobilization phase of giving maximum comfort to our team members so they can give maximum comfort to our club members, so that when they come in, they feel as secure and as comfortable as they do at home or as at work.
Thank you, Colin. Let's go back to Scott. Scott, you said that you haven't changed your core values, but do you think it's possible to change the culture? And if yes, how could you change the culture to change the game, in a changed game?
That's an interesting question, Fausto. Yes, we could change the culture to change the game, I imagine. It's not our choice. We love our culture. We've built our brand here at Club Northwest on that culture. And I guess it's our safe spot. It's what Colin was saying. It's what builds that trust with first our team, our Surreyors, and that trust there is what's passed on to the members. Change and core values. Changing the core values does not ring true to me. There is so much change spinning around those core values, not just in COVID, yet at all times. As operators, we've been through a lot of change over the last 23, 25, whatever amount of time you've been doing this. To have those things that we can count on, that way of being, those core values that we all share, again, like I said, it's the rock for us. I can't imagine changing those core values. We certainly, it's what gives us confidence to be able to let everything else change and simply adjust to it. The move to doing much more virtual was actually fun for this team, because the way we offered it to our members was the same way we offer in the past offered a handshake the same way we offered whatever that member needed. So, you know, the core values for me is something that is sacred. Many years ago, we pointed our core values at what a lot of us would look at as intangibles, and to really turn those, what we see as intangibles, things like attitude and things, into tangibles, into things that could actually be thought about and managed. Again, I can't imagine changing those core values. It's who we are, and whatever happens on the outside, it's who we will always be here at Club Northwest.
Thank you. Thank you. Interesting. Thank you. Let's go back to Paula. Paula, any recommendation for other club owners that are going to reopen in order to be able to fill as much as possible their clubs in their first week of reopening? Any recommendation?
Thank you, Fausto. First of all, sorry, I had to step out for just 1 second. So I think the biggest thing is to be flexible, and things are changing so fast. Within an hour, you may plan for one thing and then a new restriction comes out and you got to flip everything you did. You have to be flexible, be prepared for absolutely everything. Cher, when before they had reopened, I heard a webinar that she was on, and she said, be over prepared. And I couldn't agree with her more. Being over prepared is always going to save you in the end. And our members, have very high expectations, and they wanted to come back feeling that we had done everything that we were supposed to have done and more. And that's where being over prepared is the key to that. Communicating all the time. We are sending out information always. And then the tricky part is we also have a population of people that are a little bit older and not as tech savvy. We have a gentleman, everything is done by reservations. He doesn't own a computer. He has a flip phone still. So we're trying to figure out how to help him and how to make sure that he can get back into the club when he's never going to make a reservation. So we're going to have to do all of it for him. So being flexible, being open, communicating all the time, being over prepared, and do everything right. By the, you know, you might not agree with the restrictions that are placed on you. You may have a belief with this or a belief with that, but do what it is that the state or your local government has told you to do, because your members they're smart and they know what those rules and regulations are. So they're going to question you on them if you aren't doing what you're supposed to be doing. So make sure that you are being the leader in your community and your organization and doing what you need to do, and then maybe even more. And make sure that it's serious, and listen. You know, we've only been open 6 days, and we're getting a lot of great feedback about what we've done right and so forth. But we've also got a handful of comments from members going, you could be doing this better, you could be doing that better, and make sure you're listening to them and taking immediate action, because they want to be able to tell people, I brought this up and they immediately fixed it. I brought this up and they immediately fixed it. And once again, that just builds up the trust that your membership has in you. They already have a good amount of trust in you. That's why they belong to your club. What you need to do is continue to build that trust with them, do the right thing, answer their questions, take immediate action with something that you see that isn't right, and be prepared and be flexible. That's it.
Thank you very much. And let's go to the last speaker before the question and answer, David Barton. David, we had you coming to our next meeting in Finland, and we were really amazed by your intuitive ideas, a lot of counterintuitive ideas you share with us. Could you please tell us, in your opinion, what operators shouldn't do? And unmute yourself, please. Just one moment. Can you unmute yourself? I think they, yes.
Okay, am I unmuted?
Yeah. Yeah, you are.
When I'm designing a gym now, I put a lot into the front desk. Your whole business is in the hands of that person at the front desk when somebody walks in the door. When every member walks in the door, they, your whole business is in the hands of that front desk person. So, training, not training your staff enough. I think at this point, there's going to be, right now, if you're opening up, there's going to be that member who is in the middle of the gym floor screaming about the guy who left the bench sweaty and didn't wipe it up, and this person doesn't want to go and lie on the bench. Train the staff. Overtrain them right now. Maybe get some professional help as to how to deal with the psychological intricacies of the members who return to the gym and are going to make it or break it right now. Like this is it's a critical time right now as people come back to the gym, that they're going to feel safe, so that training the staff is especially that front desk. So much happens at that front desk. Anyway, that's one of the things where I see operators their shortfalls is not putting enough resources into making sure that front desk operates so predictably and create some confidence in the person walking in the door.
Perfect. When now in New York, all gyms are closed, right?
Yes, closed.
Do you know when are they going to be reopened?
It looks like sometime in July. There's nothing official yet, but word around the water fountain is that sometime mid-July, gyms will be opening up again.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, David. Now let's go to the question answer. Gabriella, it's your turn. Can you please choose 3 questions for 3 speakers?
Sure. Right, so starting with John Young, Matrix Asia. You mentioned at the beginning that there might be a comeback of this situation. Is there anything that you would say can be a good recommendation, something that can be done now to make it more for a second run to be dealt with better? Any mistakes that have been taken, that have been made, that can be avoided?
Well, it's a good question. The challenge is that, what happens in, let's say, in the market in Beijing is completely out of our hands. So we're at the mercy of these secondary clusters that occur at any time. I think, as I said earlier, I think the most important thing we can do at this stage is to make our facilities, our operations, the cleanest, the most hygiene as possible, in order to build and restore confidence, that we're running, the gym is a safe place. In Asia, people's homes are really small and tight, so there's no space for exercise. We know that although the sort of physical activity levels in Asia are quite low, as reported by URSA, but actually the physical activity levels are probably 9 to 10% higher, because we see a large prevalence of adults working out in public parks and spaces, doing Tai Chi and things like that. So actual physical activity is very high. People want to exercise. So Colin's got it, is that the gym is the third space. In Asia, people don't have that. So the gym must be that place where people want to go to, not just for health, but most important is that social engagement. So I think that we've got to continue to rally the troops. We've got to continue pressing and lobbying local governments to help us maintain that we're open, that we're safe to be an open, so that we're safe for people to come and engage, have fun, and exercise is what they all want to do.
Yes, it's the new vaccine, health, fitness, and right.
Yeah.
And now that you mentioned Colin, can I go to Colin?
Yeah.
Colin, third space.
Yeah, hi.
We have a question about how are gyms planning to take capacity back to pre-COVID levels? What would you say about that?
Yeah, I think
strategically.
Yeah, clearly in the very short term, absolutely not. I think us, like many others, will be operating a booking system. So our members have always booked their personal training or group exercise classes online before they come to the club, whereas going forward they will be booking to come to the gym as well, or use the pool or whatever they want to do in 15-minute windows. What we're already seeing, and we will be pushing even harder, is obviously off-peak usage. We are, being a city centre business, we have 3 big peaks of the day. We're busy. The truth is we're busy for 5 out of 16 hours, and we've got plenty of capacity off-peak. So our, like Cher was saying, I think the tolerance around personal space is something that people will be sensitive about. And our demographic is, typically in the sort of late 20s and early 30s, so perhaps feel a bit more bulletproof than older generations, but nevertheless, the sensitivity around personal space will be there. So we absolutely think there's going to be a long tail effect of people having sensitive about that personal space, and therefore as an operator you have to be respectful and responsible towards that. And one of the things I'd say, the things we have within our power is the peak time usage. Obviously it's partly borne out of by commuter patterns and what offices and companies expect their employees to do. It's also borne out by our programming. And we were, prior to lockdown, getting great successes. You move your best instructors and your best classes to 10 o'clock in the morning, and funny enough, people come. And therefore, by moving more and more of your activity and actually training your personal trainers to encourage their clients to come and train at off-peak times, you can do things to actually ease that problem somewhat. So that's certainly what we'll be setting out to do to minimise the long-term impact. As Cher says, ultimately, if people want to pay for like exclusive access or more exclusive access to the same experience, then the prices will have to go up. And therefore it's finding the sweet spot between that and moving capacity around to maximise revenue and experience in balance.
Right, thank you so much. And David, it's been talked about the importance of the online training. What impact do you think that will have in the future? Could that be a way of also getting people back, or at least getting more people involved?
Online training?
Yeah.
I think it's a good way it's a great way to keep connected to people. I think it will ever replace, the one-on-one training with real human interaction. Since this whole COVID thing has happened, and I talked to people in New York who stopped being able to use the gym, and they're, people are working out online and doing workouts at home, and trainers I know training people online, and people are getting used to eating dinner at home every night, going to school at home, dating from their computer, shopping from home. But one thing I have yet to hear is anyone really happy about training at home, training, with an online instructor or doing classes online. I've yet to hear anyone, and I've set up gyms for, wealthy guys, like, because they have a big apartment, they can set up a huge gym in their place. And I've yet to hear anyone ever who's really said, well, working out at home is great, ever. I think this is, when all is said and done, people are going to need that gym. People need that human interaction, that, what else is left? where people,
right. Yes, thank you so much. The same question, if I may, Fausto. The same
Okay,
question.
last question, yes.
Yeah, let's
Right.
keep to the digital question, because we've had quite a few about digital, digital being the new opportunity, basically. So anybody else? Mel, do you think it's a good option?
I think the reality is, yeah, digital is an option, and you're going to have it when you open your clubs. I mean, here in Australia, we're all opening our clubs at different times, and I'm opening my club for the first time next Monday. For the last 13 weeks, we've been running Facebook Live classes, then uploading the class onto a web-based app. Reality is our members have said, yeah, while there's restrictions in place and only 10 people can come to a class, this is fantastic that you're going to offer the option of us being able to do that class with you because we can't get a spot, or perhaps they just don't feel comfortable coming into a club. So, you know, digital, yes, absolutely. It's here to stay. We have to accept that, and we have to get savvy with it. We need to now use it as added value to our memberships.
Right, thank you so much. Excellent.
We have reached the end of the webinar, Gabriella. So we can say thank you to you, and thanks to all the speakers for sharing their idea and experiences, and also a big thank you to all the participants. And see you next week, same day, same hour, with another great panel of experts from all around the world. Thank you very much. Have a nice week, everybody.
Thanks, Fausto.
Thank you, Fausto. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank
bye-bye.
you.
Thank you. Bye.